So, a few months back, my friends were discussing the Harry Potter series. I kind of felt intrigued and I also wanted to be part of the discussion. So, I decided to read these books, and here's what I think. I want to make one thing very clear that I am not like a professional reviewer or anything. I don't want this video to sound like one either. These are just my general thoughts, and I will not be picking details apart and examining them closely. I just want to talk about what I feel like after having read these books. I want to start by talking about the characters because I think they are the most important part of any work of fiction. They get even more important as the story grows in length, and given that the series at hand is not a short one, I feel like this is a good topic to start this video on. I feel like the characters in the series as a whole were decent. The main trio is acceptable. About Harry himself, I don't have any strong opinions. I don't love him, neither do I hate him. He's a good main character but lacks much depth. But he's pretty enjoyable to read. His curiosity mirrors my own, and he develops some really deep bonds with people like Sirius and Dumbledore, which is heartwarming as he has no real family to speak of. But that is as much as I can say about him. As for Ron, he feels more like a real character. He is dumb as teenagers are, makes mistakes as they do, finds fanciful things fanciful, and has the aspirations of making his family proud of him as they are proud of his brothers. Hermione, on the other hand, she's smart, but that's not the only thing there is to her. She has other traits that make her interesting, like never giving up on a problem that needs to be solved, mystery that needs to be uncovered, having a great moral sense of what is right and what isn't. She also has feelings that can be hurt. Many times the clever characters like Hermione are shown to be stoic and non-caring for what people around them think. But Hermione longs for friends and is very caring of them. Both of them are great compliments to Harry's character, and that's why I think this trio works really well. They might not have much depth to them individually, and that might have been a problem given their prominence in the series, but taken as a group, their interactions can be very engaging and fun to follow along. If we move outside the main trio though, we can find a very varied spectrum of characters containing both livid and dull characters. When I started the series, Professor McGonagall was my favorite character. I loved her sincerity, strictness, and the elegance with which she carried herself. Later on though, she didn't receive that much attention, so she dropped down lower on my list. That is also one of my main problems with the books. I think the main trio gets a lot of what we can say, screen time, and the other characters are left scraping the barrel. In many ways, I think this time is wasted, which could have been used to give more limelight to the wide array of side characters that we have here. But I guess I can't complain too much, as the series is literally named Harry Potter and I should have seen this coming. My current favorites are Fred and George, Ginny, and Luna. Fred and George are great executions of the playful, troublemakers kind. Every time they appear in the chapter, I know that the mood will be lightened or we will receive another ridiculous piece of advice. They fit well in the Weasley family. Their adventures in Hogwarts also seem something like I would like to read more about. The series has some of the best humor I have ever read, and a lot of it is courtesy of our mischievous twins. Ginny had a great transformation from being a timid and shy child to a confident teenager who can handle herself, and probably the only one who can handle Harry Potter. Luna was a complete surprise for me. She was introduced very late in the series, I think about in book 5, and given the characters we had seen so far, she felt a very different creation. I could hardly believe that the author who wrote many bland side characters like R.A.B, Minister, Fudge, Percy, Lavender, Parvati, Madame Maxime, etc. has written Luna. The mere presence of Luna can make Harry or anyone awkward. Her introduction on board the Hogwarts Express is one of the best character introductions I have ever read. Her weird upbringing has implanted some abnormal character traits in her, which come to full display on many occasions. Her scene with Harry at the end of Order of the Phoenix after Sirius's death is both heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time. It is very beautiful and very defining of this character. But when all is said and done, I feel like there was only one truly sophisticated character, and that is Dumbledore. As Harry thinks to himself in Deathly Hallows, I only thought I knew Dumbledore. I think no one truly understands the depth of this character, not even us the readers. We might know Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts, but the young Albus, his motives, actions, goals, although revealed somewhat later in the series, are still clouded in mist. Like Harry, I never thought to question that Dumbledore didn't spawn into this world as a wise old man, that he must have had a childhood, a career. Albus was not as clean and simple as Harry. He sought glory, personal goal, and viewed his sister as a liability slowing him down. But he wasn't heartless. When Ariana dies, he does come back to his senses and abstains from ever having too much power again, for he knows how tempting it is for him and how much it costs the others. When he finds the resurrection stone, he tries to bring back the dead and ease his burden. Rather than carrying it his whole life and letting them rest, he went against the wisdom he is so known for because he longed to see them, to apologize to them. He is no role model, but he is in his own sense human. To be human is to be tempted by things, but overcoming the temptations with willpower. To be human is to learn from the mistakes of your past, to want to keep your loved ones safe but also wanting to make a name for yourself. Also, the guy was too OP. His game could easily rival that of the best Game of Thrones players. He was manipulating every string he had and was doing it gracefully. He has practically molded the story into what it is. Now, let's move on to the wizarding world. I went into the series expecting that I will be greeted by a magnificent world with grand cities, sprawling towns, mysterious dungeons, extraordinary phenomena, and much more. I am sad to say that in this regard I was sorely disappointed. There are very few locations we ever visit, and while those that we do are pretty good, like Hogwarts School, the Ministry of Magic, the Burrow, etc., but I am still left wanting more. The non-human species lack in detail and feel like they are only there to fulfill their purpose in the story rather than being real people with their own cultures and history. Here, I must mention that before I started reading Harry Potter, I had read the Stormlight Archive. So, any series I read after that was going to have a really hard time impressing me when it comes to the world. Although I am trying to evaluate this world for what it is rather than comparing it to the others, I feel like if I had read these books around when I was 15 to 16, I would have appreciated this world much more. At 20 years, I probably fall just outside of the target audience for these books. The magic system though is a different story, and I think it is really great. It feels very different from the generic magic systems that plague many forms of media these days. For example, where each individual has Pokemon-style elemental powers with typical good/bad matchups. They have been especially prevalent in the worlds of anime. And whilst they aren't bad in themselves, many times they are executed in a very half-assed lazy way. That's not the case with the magic of the wizarding world. Here it feels like the magic serves other purposes than fighting. This is a magic that wizards use in their daily lives that can also be used for fighting rather than the other way around. There are many more utility spells than there are direct combat spells. And throughout the series we see many instances where the utility spells are used in clever ways for fighting. There aren't spells that can drastically overpower your opponents. I'm talking about the weather changing, mountain destroying, lake evaporating kind. No matter how strong of a wizard you are, you always have to rely on your surroundings and come up with clever ways to win a duel or escape a situation. Wizards also have to rely on wands and cannot do complex magic without them. This adds the dynamic where you can disarm your opponent to neutralize them instead of having to kill them. And I'm happy to see this disarming tactic being widely used in the story. The Expelliarmus spell might be one of the most used spells in the wizarding world, and for good reason. It is relatively simple and easy to use, but if you catch your opponent off guard, that is a one-hit KO right there. Next, let's talk about the main villain, he who must not be named. I think he was a fine villain. I never truly understood what he wanted. Did he want to rule the wizarding folk and the muggles? But to what end? It seems such a simple and non-realistic motive that I never really got hooked onto him. Also, whatever he might have hoped to do, he was never going to be successful at it. He never stood a chance. Why? Because he was too narcissistic. His tendency to treat himself as this all-knowing, powerful god made him too overconfident to see the reality that he was fighting a losing battle. Yeah, he had some small victories over here and there, but mostly he was getting badly beat. His tendency to punish those who failed to carry out a task he had assigned meant that he was never going to have many, if any, true allies. And we can see that throughout the story he is betrayed by multiple people. Snape, Regulus, Narcissa, just to name a few. These people were fighting for him with their lives, and he rewarded them with being pleased with himself if they succeeded and punishing them if they failed. This was a recipe for disaster. And I think we can safely say that he brought about his own downfall more than any Harry Potter or Dumbledore did. I would like to talk about a few characters that I wouldn't necessarily call villains, but they did make me feel passionate hatred for them. They are Professor Dolores Umbridge, Daily Prophet writer Rita Skeeter, and Minister member and Death Eater Lucius Malfoy. I think that though these characters have the depth of a children's bathtub to them, they still got me to feel what the writer intended to make me feel, and that is immense hatred and anger. The actions of these characters are described in such a way that they seem like crimes against humanity, and from Harry's POV, that might as well be the case. They succeed where he who must not be named fails, in making me care, and so they will be more memorable characters to me than he who must not be named ever will. Another thing that I think the books do really well is convey grief. Harry's perspective after the deaths of Cedric, Sirius, and Dumbledore is really well written and almost made me feel the grief that Harry was going through. They conveyed the significance of the events that had just unfolded and how life will never be the same again. These chapters establish these characters as real people who lived but now no longer will, and that as humans we understand the true value of something only after we have lost it. As I said, Harry's conversation with Luna after Sirius's death really touched me. As young teenagers, they don't really have the words to console each other, but they do reach understanding and lift each other up in their own weird words and ways. There's one thing I would like to mention apart from everything else, and that is Regulus Black. His storyline of going after the Horcrux locket for avenging Creature was very unexpected and a very well written plot twist. It is one of those few events that have nothing to do with Harry. It is a master sacrificing his life for a servant he loves dearly and realizing that the master that he himself has served will never do the same for him. It makes the world feel a lot more like a real entity rather than one that has been forged around a singular character. This storyline is proof that the writer of these books can write great behind the scenes events, but it is one of the things that we see very few of in the series. Also, the books I think kind of struggle to properly reveal the secrets. As we know in fantasy, there are secrets which our protagonists must uncover, and many times these secrets lead to more secrets which keep us engaged and wanting to know more. J.K. Rowling and these books have a distinct philosophy when it comes to them. I can summarize it as keep putting a pile of questions on the reader's mind and reveal everything to them in the end. I don't think it really works though. Take for example the third book, Prisoner of Azkaban. Harry wants to know the answer to multiple questions like where does Professor Lupin disappear every few days? Is Professor Snape giving him some potion that is causing him to fall ill? How does Hermione suddenly transport into classes? Who gifted him the firebolt? Why did Sirius Black break out of Azkaban and is he after Harry? Why does he keep seeing a Grim and is Professor Trelawney right about his death? Why is the Shrieking Shack abandoned? Who were the Marauders and how does the map work? All of these questions are answered in the final few chapters of the book. I feel like if a few of those questions or secrets were answered in the middle portion of the book, it would have made that portion a lot more interesting to read through. Okay, so here are the ratings that I have given to these books on my Goodreads. Philosopher's Stone gets a 2 star, 2 for Chamber of Secrets, another 2 for Prisoner of Azkaban, 3 for Goblet of Fire, 4 stars for Order of the Phoenix, 3 for The Half-Blood Prince, and 4 for The Deathly Hallows. That averages around 3 stars for the series, which I think is a great summation of what I felt reading it. I found that I enjoyed the books more when our characters were in Hogwarts doing regular school things like playing Quidditch, getting in trouble, discovering the secrets of this castle, than when they were out battling the villains. Also, curiously, if we sort the books by their length, we can see a pattern. The longer books have received better grades, and I don't think this is a coincidence. I think the longer books benefit from more build-up and greater detail of life at Hogwarts, which, as I said, I found more interesting than the outside stuff. And with that, I would like to conclude this video. Would I recommend these books to other people? Yes, I would. I think they get a lot of things right. And while they didn't blow me away, honestly, do they really need to? Do like and share it if you enjoyed the video. I'm just starting out on YouTube and I hope this journey will be fun and long. Right now, I'm reading The Ship of Magic from the Life Ship Traders trilogy by writer Robin Hall. I will hopefully be making a video on that series after I'm done, so subscribe if you would like to see that, and I'll see you next time.